nature is all around us. I think if everybody just looks out their window right now, notice how the everyday nature around you makes you feel, and people consistently write that, wow, I didn't realize there was so much nature around me. I'm surprised at how much better it made me feel.
We really believe in, if you're going to do something to a park, do it with those people who've been using it and advocating for it the whole time. So anytime we put programs in parks citywide, we always do it in partnership with park stewardship organizations, block clubs, churches. Like, hey, what are you guys looking for? And when do you want it? When doesn't conflict with stuff that you already have going on?
Everywhere you go in Detroit, somebody has reused something. You know, people look at Detroit and they see a city of ruins. And like, I don't see that. I see a place where I can take different things and create something really beautiful.
Welcome back to the Metro on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. And today is Earth Day, a day meant to celebrate our environment for what it offers us and to consider what it would mean to destroy it. Sometimes it's easier to feel the environmental damage humans have caused. Wildfires create smoke that Detroiters now more regularly inhale in the summer. Fierce storms more frequently flood our streets, and extremely hot days create health-related issues. But our Earth offers something that can protect us from a number of these things, and that's trees. A few years ago, the city of Detroit began the project of planting 10,000 trees because the shade they offer and flood water they soak up. Now, WDET has begun its own tree project. WDET's Amanda LeClaire is the managing editor and lead reporter for the Tree Canopy Project, which includes 24 months of reporting on the health of trees and what that means for all of us. The project began in January, and she's already done some reporting on trees in Detroit and Michigan. And to discuss this project, of course, we have her here now. Amanda, welcome to the Metro.
Hi, thanks so much, Tia. Yeah, this is a pretty big project for WDET. We had a grant from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources to begin this 24-month, 2-year reporting project on trees. And, you know, at first, even that sounds like, well, it's a lot of time and there's a lot of stories you can do, but are there that many? And so digging into this project over the past few months, I am so delighted and shocked and really excited to bring some reporting to folks about things that they may not be aware when they just look at the tree in their own backyard.
Yeah. So you hit on it just a little bit there, but let's just talk about the importance of this project, especially for us who live in Michigan, and especially for us who live in the city of Detroit. We often think that we don't have a lot of green space or trees, but we actually do have quite a bit, and a diverse bit of trees as well. So talk about the importance of this project.
Okay, so especially in cities like Detroit and the metro region as well, we are kind of a concrete island in the midst of a very forested state and, our beautiful Great Lakes as well. But we're kind of a concrete island. So something that I think a lot of people are going to resonate with and that they've noticed more and more of is flooding during severe storms here in Metro Detroit. Mm-hmm. Communities like Dearborn, the Grosse Pointes, Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood of Detroit hit a lot by things like flooding. And trees offer a lot of support in helping maintain even these really old systems that we have, the water system in Detroit, the sewer system. As we know, some of these pipes are more than a century old. So there's so much we have to do to rebuild and also look ahead and buffer ourselves to what's going to happen with climate change. But as we know, we're going to see more flooding. We're going to see more severe rainstorms here in Metro Detroit. And it is a big deal to have an ecology here that will help support that.
And what kinds of things are you going to be covering? You talked about your excitement of finding out just different angles and ways to talk about trees here in the city of Detroit, or in Metro Detroit. I keep jumping to Detroit. But what kinds of things are you covering? What are you excited to cover?
Yeah, I'm really excited to cover a lot of things. Of course, we're going to be focusing here on the city of Detroit, the metro region after that, and then broader Michigan, because, as we know, one tree is just a tree, but trees together are a forest, and that becomes an ecosystem, and that becomes really stable ways to mitigate a lot of the climate damage that we might see. So one thing that I have discovered is old growth forest exists more than we think here in the city of Detroit too, and like in the broader area of Michigan. A lot of people think about a place called Hartwick Pines up in near Cadillac, I believe, as being the only old growth patch, an acre by 2 acres or something of old growth forest here in Michigan. But according to the Old Growth Forest Network, there are 19 sites across the state.
Oh, wow.
That are old growth.
Had no idea. From my perspective, you talked about the folks in Cadillac. Oh, it's only one here. From my perspective, I'm thinking to myself, well, Palmer Park one is the only ones.
That's what.
Yeah.
You know that. A lot of people don't recognize that Palmer Park is an old growth forest. Is absolutely one of the gems of the city of Detroit. And looking a little bit to the south, the Detroit International Wildlife Refuge. It's the last untouched a couple 100 miles or so of the Detroit River.
Wow.
And they have a patch of forest that is now part of the Old Growth Forest Network. So it's kind of cool. I'd like to go out and visit a lot of these places just to see how have they survived and how are they currently being maintained and taken care of, because, it's our legacy as well.
It's really cool to know that there is a part of the Detroit River that has been untouched, unscathed. I love that. So the downriver area was designated an old growth forest. We talked a little bit about it, but what exactly is an old growth forest? Of course, it's old, but what makes it an old growth forest?
Well, yeah, we're going to find out some of the specific details of it. But generally, if there are a patch of trees that they're over 200 years old. And also depends on the type of tree as well, and their, I don't want to say historical value per se, but actually saying that gets me into another topic that I have just recently found out that I am excited to report on, which is tree law.
Tree law. The legality of trees?
Yes, the legality of trees. So there are lawyers, there are attorneys that cover, of course, environmental issues and things like that, but specifically some who are dedicated to tree law. And so just for example, if you're in a neighborhood and your neighbor has this big old tree that just keeps dropping branches and leaves all over your yard, or maybe, it's leaning over the power lines. You decide, you're going to do them a favor. It's right on the edge. You're going to cut that tree down, right? And they come home and they're very, very upset about this. And they get their lawyers involved because that tree that you cut down was maybe a 200-year-old oak tree. And as we know right now, something called oak wilt is hitting a lot of our oak trees here in Michigan and here in Southeast Michigan. So that makes that even more valuable. So that lawyer then argues the case about the value of that tree, given all of the aspects of what it does to a community.
I'm not trying to start anything, but, if my mom's listening right now, do not cut that tree down. I'm sending a lawyer your way. They're on their way. But we do want to get into some of that work that you've been working on right now. You covered the nonprofit Arboretum Detroit. That organization transformed vacant lots into circle forest. And here's Amanda speaking with Arboretum Detroit co-director Andrew Birch Kemp about that project.
Circle Forest Jam, the first one of the year up here at Circle Forest. We are getting ready for a big year. This is the first year we actually completed this project, and now it's all about programming and just being with the trees.
Okay, so tell me the basics of what is Circle Forest.
12 formerly vacant lots that we transformed into this park. It was just kind of mowed grass and a little bit of wild forest with basically a volunteer forest, one of those illegal dumping kind of situations where the forest came up through the garbage. So we cleared out like 60 yards of garbage and did a tree assessment, pulled out invasives, planted 200 native trees. It's a park where there wasn't a park, there was just houses here back when I moved over here, and slowly they vanished, were bulldozed, the deal. Now it's 12 lots, and it's acre and a third, and it's like a real hub in the neighborhood now. And there's a pathway that leads through, so you can walk a mile off the street through the neighborhood, and people do that, walk their dog, walk themselves, jog. It's pretty cool, into nooks and crannies where people hadn't been in decades, kind of. They were kind of like the little scary corners of the park of the neighborhood that we just kind of opened up and revealed the magic that's there.
I like the way you said that, opened up and revealed the magic that was here, because people forget that even in a city, there's still nature.
So much. I think that's like, if I could give advice to anybody doing a green space project, it would be to like sit with the space for a year maybe and see really what's there, who's there, what trees, what birds, what plants. Because a lot of times I've had people visit the project and been like, oh, I didn't realize I could leave trees like that. We just did a project and we cut everything down and then we planted these little trees. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, people have this impulse to like start brand new, we're going to just, bulldoze everything and plant what we want or whatever. I think it's really important to realize who's here. And in this situation, that meant a lot of trees that are quote unquote invasive, non-native trees that a lot of people would like be wagging their fingers at. And I'm not mad at any tree out here because they've been providing shade for decades, like before I got here. So who am I to come through and just decide you have to go? It is a native restoration project, so we had a lot of those conversations, like who stays, who goes, who are we bringing in? And a couple times we identified trees that were, supposed to be invasive trees, right? There's a ailanthus, right? Everybody knows the ghetto palm. But if there's northern flickers nesting in it, well, that's pretty important, right, to make a home for the flickers. So the decision is made, like that tree is not going to be cut down. Stuff like that. Like there was another one, it was a really tall ailanthus tree, and it's kind of like, oh, that's the biggest ailanthus out here. Is it going to continue to spread? Should we cut her down now? And then an eagle lands on the top of the tree. It's like, nope, we're not cutting that tree down. So anyway, we didn't cut very many trees down. And the trees that we did cut, we made this log raft over here, which is like a kind of demonstration of coarse woody debris and how important it is to regenerate the forest. And it's really primarily about the trees, but it's about the people. It's trees to the people and people to the trees. Like that's kind of one of our slogans, because we have a tree nursery where we give trees to people, and then we're bringing people out to the trees here.
A tree nursery. It is brought me back to Harry Potter when they're doing with their magical trees. We're not going to go there right now. So just a quick takeaway, that vacant lot was transformed into a place where a lot of trees now stand. And give us a little background for those who are not aware about the area there.
Well, it's funny you brought up Harry Potter, because it really feels very magical over there. It feels like it's a labor of love for sure, from the folks at Arboretum Detroit. But I love so much when he's talking about, we're not clear cutting what's here, just because there's a non-native species. Maybe it is an invasive species. I don't want to go too far in that, but is it providing ecology? Is it providing a home for squirrels and birds and all these things? Is it providing shade? Is it providing for that area? And so how can you look at a even, just one vacant lot in Detroit and think, okay, what can I beautify here? One, but what can I encourage that's already here too? I think that the way they look at it is very, very beautiful.
Yeah, like he says, in a restorative way. I love that so much. So let's get into another aspect of your reporting. You spoke with Bonita Hussein, the executive director of the American Forest Tree Equity Program. And what was the most important thing that you learned?
Okay, now this is something that we've been talking about it, we've been referencing it, but this is really kind of where the rubber meets the road. How do you look at a city and say, okay, it needs this much green infrastructure, or this city's doing better? Like, how do you measure that kind of thing? And that's what American Forest does. They're a national nonprofit, and they've used a lot of, been able to use funds from federal funds from the American Infrastructure Act and all of those sort of things, because, as we said, green infrastructure. I talked to Bonita because that funding is a little bit in jeopardy right now. A lot of things happening on that federal level, but American Forest, they work with folks like Greening of Detroit here and others. They told me they're very committed to their partners here in Detroit to make sure that this goal of quite a few thousand trees by 2027 is met in the city of Detroit. So looking and seeing, okay, if this neighborhood, even this one street, has no real shade, no real cover, it is going to be hotter than the other streets around. And if it's a lot of streets in the neighborhood, that place is going to be a heat island, they call it, It's going to have flooding issues. And our health, human health, actually depends so much on trees, not just the oxygen we're breathing in, although that's a major, but being near trees has been shown to lower anxiety, lower inflation and heart and blood pressure. So that will affect a community deeply and for generations if they don't have access to green infrastructure, right? So I talked to Benita about the tree equity score, how they come about it, and details.
Sure. So, Tree Equity Score is our national tool that helps map 2,600 urban areas across the country, across socioeconomic lines. And our national data allows us to say that, communities that have fewer trees tend to be hotter and, again, tend to have, fewer benefits than those that do have more trees. And so, we've seen neighborhoods around the country, and this is true in the city of Detroit as well, where the hottest neighborhoods in Detroit have almost 1.5 times fewer trees than the cooler neighborhoods. And that leads to anywhere from an 8 to 20%, a 20-degree Fahrenheit disparity, really 20 degrees being a really scary number. So, as we have worked in partnership with the city of Detroit, as well as a number of local partners, such as the Greening of Detroit, we launched our tree equity partnership locally in 2021. And the goal there was to plant 75,000 trees by 2027. And of course, by 2027. And, the Inflation Reduction Act, the dollars that flowed into the city of Detroit have helped accelerate that. So it was really exciting to see the news that in 2024, the city was able to plant in partnership 25,000 new trees in those only 3 years. So it's just great to see, that we have set a target of 75,000 trees. To see 25,000 trees planted is a huge, huge feat.
Okay, Amanda, so we learned that green infrastructure really matters, especially in the city of Detroit, and it helps prevent flooding and it keeps the city and the suburbs cool on hot days. What other projects are you looking into right now?
Okay, one of the big things news-wise we're going to be keeping an eye on is wildfire risk in Michigan. We're already in some areas under some risk. There's been a lot of destruction with the ice storm up north. We're going to be keeping an eye on some of the, the natural disasters and weather-related extreme events that are harming our ecology, but our tree canopy in particular. And another one I'm looking into is the oldest tree in Metro Detroit. And I know we're not gonna look at Palmer Park just because they do have the old growth forest network already. They're a clear winner. But apparently there are an oak over 500 years old in the region. Somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to put a tracker on this tree and find this tree. But Amanda LeClaire is the managing editor and lead reporter for WDET's Tree Canopy Project. You can contact her with any stories or any questions you have about trees. Her email address is amanda@wdet.org. One more time, that's Amanda@WDET.org. Amanda, thank you for joining us on the Metro.
Oh, thanks so much, Tia.
Of course. Coming up on the Metro, Detroit has lots of green spaces that need protecting. We'll chat with an organizer of an arch-themed Earth Day cleanup happening at Palmer Park this weekend. We'll be right back. Stay right there. Welcome back to the Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. Now, the city of Detroit has a lot of concrete streets, as we just heard from Amanda LeClaire, slabs of road and old industrial buildings, but it also has lots of greenery. Palmer Park adds a lot of green on its own. The park is home to one of the city's oldest old-growth forests. That means the park is home to large, old trees with diverse plant and animal life. Palmer Park is just one of many spaces in Detroit celebrating Earth Day, which is today. And that holiday began as a way to get students more involved in their immediate environment. And to discuss this now, we have Mark Loeb here. He is an organizer of one of those Earth Day events, and he's leading the Art in the Trees event at Palmer Park. Mark, welcome back to the Metro.
Thank you so much, Tia. It's always a thrill to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you back. So for the folks who aren't familiar with the city of Detroit, about where is Palmer Park and why is it an important park for the city?
Well, Palmer Park is kind of that invisible giant park that people go by on Woodward when they're heading south to the city. They don't realize that off to the right there, that is hundreds and hundreds of acres of parkland, including over 100 acres of old-growth forest.
Which is me. I'm one of those folks. My whole life driving past, never knew, looked over, and I just saw the tennis courts maybe or something like that, but you never truly understand the depth of it until you walk through it. So this is the second year for Art in the Trees. What is it exactly?
Well, we've taken advantage of the great aspect of the old-growth forest, and there's over 1 mile of asphalt trails through there. So even people in wheelchairs and otherwise disabled or differently abled are still able to join us. We've got over 24 artists who will be bringing their large-scale installations to show them. And then we have 4 musicians that'll be spread out throughout the space playing their music. So as you wander through, you'll see different art that's in a surprising environment and hear different music as you're going through.
And the cool thing as well is you don't just have the art, you don't have just the music. You also have the Earth Day cleanup things that are going on alongside it. So while you're out listening and you're having a good time, you're cleaning as well.
Exactly. We ask people to pick up a bag and do a little cleanup on their way, pick up a few things. We also have different types of installations, including what we call our Aziza doors.
Yes.
Aziza are West African ferries, and some of the cities have ferry doors in their downtowns. We decided that for Palmer Park, we needed Aziza doors. Now, Azizas are invisible, their houses are invisible, but you can see their doors.
So are guests going to be able to create and paint their own doors?
Yes, and we also have some mini birdhouse kits and some butterflies so that people can really go crazy with it. Take those home with you or leave them there in the park for others to enjoy.
I love that. I love that. So, let's talk just a little bit about the importance of community when we talk about Palmer Park and the people of Palmer Park and so many folks who've worked together for generations to make sure that they maintain and keep Palmer Park for Detroiters and visitors of Detroit. Can we talk about that important community aspect there?
Sure. From the very beginning, Senator Palmer, who owned the park, donated it for the good of all Detroiters. And we've been trying in our little bit amount of time to maintain that.
Yeah.
The nice thing about this event is it brings people into a section of the park that they may not have been in, even if they've been coming for 30 years. It's a safe woods, especially when there's other people there. And just wandering through it, you'll get a different experience than you would sitting in the benches in the kiosks or wherever. And it's just a way of communing with nature a little bit better.
I love that. We're talking about Art in the Park, an Earth Day cleanup event and art event happening at Palmer Park. Our guest is Mark Loeb, an organizer of the event. So I do want to transition just a little bit here. The Palmer Park Art Fair, it's not happening until the end of May, but which is still coming pretty quickly. Right. Are you all still accepting artists?
We still have some room for art groups. So if you have a group of people that want to exhibit together, we can still consider including you. The individual juried artists, we're full on.
Already full, which is a good sign that people are really, really receptive to the Palmer Park Art Fair. Is it a little ways out? Of course it is, like I just said, but can we just talk about the art fair and the need for events for folks to kind of have a release, especially with everything we hear, the constant spinning news cycle that we have above our heads every day? Can we just talk about the importance of an event like this one and making sure that people have outlets?
Well, every once in a while you hear somebody say, well, we should cancel these events. There's so much craziness going on in the world. This is just a distraction. Well, frankly, Tia, as you and I were discussing, that distraction is essential for sanity sometimes.
It is so essential right now. I think about this, all the cool things that are happening throughout the city, and I'm hoping that people allow themselves that space to enjoy themselves, even though the world and times may seem a little shaky and dicey. But what are ways that you dive into this distraction to feel a little bit more connected to nature? How do you dive into this to make sure that your mind is blocking some of those things out?
Well, I think sometimes you just have to come up with a premise and follow it. One of the things I'm playing with this year is, what would a tree do to look beautiful before the leaves start coming out? You know, in the winter, they get the Christmas decorations. In the fall, they've got the colorful leaves. But this time of year, they look kind of plain. So we've invented some tree jewelry that we've made from things that we found in the park that were discards, from cans, from buckets, from all sorts of things. And we've helped the trees to dress up a little bit for this occasion.
I don't think you understand how much I love that. I'm just like grinning because who says that you can't dress up for the springtime as well? Give them a little extra spruce there. Oh man, I love that, Mark. So let's talk about the importance once again of this event and when it's taking place and what people should know if they're interested in just coming, listening, walking through and helping clean up, honestly.
Sure. So we are mostly entering the woods from the community house, which is at, I think, 1136 Merrill Plaisance. Beautiful large parking lot there. Park there. You'll see our giant teepee-shaped tent that's blue, and that's where we're doing our art activities, so you can make your birdhouse there. And then the path is from there, and it creates one giant circle, about 3/4 of a mile if you decide to walk the whole thing. And as you're going, like I said, you're going to see different art. You're going to hear different music. Something that I learned from the Electronic Music Festival years ago was sometimes it's joyful to not just stand at one stage and listen to one musician or one group, but between them you can hear how the different music relates to each other, and that's kind of a blast too.
I love that. This is what nature does. It brings us all together in so many different ways. Mark Loeb works for Integrity Shows, a group that produces public events. Art in the Park is this Sunday, April 27th from 9 to 3, and cleanup gear will be included. Mark, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thank you, Tia. I look forward to seeing your listeners and you out there.
Yes. Coming up, the Detroit Public Library provides residents with some essential tools like books and internet, but that only scratches the surface of its offerings. We'll learn about some of the library's lesser-known resources coming up next. You all stay right there on the Metro. We will be right back, and this is WDET FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.